Savannah, hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Kandily Kesha. We do not have much for you tonight, but did want to check in and give a few updates and nuggets of information and hear from you to see if there is anything you want to talk about or any questions you have. But first, we want to talk about a few decisions that were made at the last city council meeting. And we have a meeting this coming Thursday. So we want you all to be sure to tune in and engage. Go to the City of Savannah website. For individuals who do not have access to the website, you can contact the City of Savannah Clerk's office, our clerk, Mr. Mark Massey, and they will be happy to email you a copy of the agenda or snail mail through U.S. mail, you a copy of the agenda. This is just so you see exactly what the city is spending money on. As I often state, we don't spend money once a month. We spend a whole bunch of money 2 times a month in the city of Savannah. And oftentimes these are major big purchases. And we want you to also pay attention to the vendors, some of the revolving vendors on the agenda as well. But first, we want to talk about the one of the decisions during the last city council meeting. We have been talking a lot about the millage rate and the fact that we needed to essentially roll the rate back. That's what we were advocating for, myself, Alderwoman Blakely, Alderwoman Lanier. We also advocated for this last year, but they decided to keep the millage rate the same, which essentially, in effect, caused your property taxes to increase. And so by now, everyone has received their tax bill, and you see that your taxes have increased from the previous year. It will often be presented to individuals that the council is not raising taxes, and technically we are not. But when we make a decision not to roll back the millage rate, that in effect does increase your property taxes. So it shows you that we can control it. We can control passing on savings to you. The city of Savannah, the county of Chatham, the state of Georgia, municipal governments, county governments, state governments have received federal subsidies in the form of bailouts. Billions of dollars have been given to communities across the nation. Savannah is one of them. Chatham County is one of them. And it is my opinion that if we were receiving this windfall of funds, albeit one time, what was it that precluded us from giving our citizens a one-time reduction, if you will, or a same-time reduction in their taxes, given that we did not really have any major loss as a result of COVID? So why not pass that savings on? And so this year, fast forward, since we kept the millage rate the same in the previous year, not only did your taxes increase, but we actually collected more than we needed. We collected more than we needed because the assessed tax values, the assessed value of homes in Savannah went up tremendously. And the same will hold true now. For this year or for the coming year. And so it was explained that, or the justification for making the millage rate at 12.2 versus rolling it back to the lowest rate, which would have been 11.33, was to give police officers and firefighters a raise, or to increase the beginning salaries of officers and firefighters entering our forces. Now, of course, who's going to vote against that, right? No one. We don't want to vote against that, but we don't want that to have to be an option. Why do we have to create this emotional scenario where we gotta recruit more police officers and firefighters to do this? No, we could do that right now. We can make those adjustments. Not only can we give police officers an increase and firefighters an increase right now, sanitation workers deserve it also, but we can do this not just this year, we could do it every single year. If we were to stop spending money we don't have on things we don't need, prioritize. Our local government is filled with wasteful spending, and we are doing this on the backs of taxpayers. And so what we want to do is make sure we continue to keep government honest, make sure that we are watching the coffers of the city of Savannah to assure that the workers within are being workers and leaders are being fiscally prudent and spending money in a manner in which would be pleasing to our citizens. And so we are anti-tax increase of any kind, especially when we know that we have all the resources we need. In excess of 2.5 years, we have been down over 100 police officers. For 2.5 years, we have been down more than 100 police officers. Those are salaries that were budgeted for. That's money for over 100 officers that was not spent for 2.5 years. So if we really were serious about increasing the salaries of incoming officers and firefighters, if we were really serious about giving raises to our police officers in our fire department, why haven't we done so with the money we already have? Why are we putting a burden on our taxpayers when we could actually use this as an opportunity to give them somewhat of a reprieve from taxes a little bit? I think you deserve it. In the face of everything being high, from eggs, oh my gosh, have you seen the price of eggs lately? Eggs, gas, our utilities. And that brings me to our next topic, muddy waters. So again, myself, Alderwoman Blakely, and Alderwoman Lanier, the three of us did not vote for the millage rate as proposed. We were inclined to roll that rate back to the lowest rate, which would be 11.3. Keep in mind that the resources that come from our millage rate, from your property taxes, also support the services in our community. And we know that services have been less than stellar in some regard. We have some work to do. And so you should not pay for services that you are not receiving. And if we have been down over 100 police officers, that means in some regard, in some of your communities, you haven't even received the police coverage that you need and deserve. Okay, water bills. Okay, the God honest truth is, there has been changes to the water bill cycle. These changes occurred without informing the public. These changes resulted in individuals being billed more frequently, which resulted in you now receiving a late fee that they are calling an administrative fee, when in effect, the administrative fee under the guise of the late fee under the guise of the administrative fee is $50. Now, $50 is almost as much as what a monthly bill or a half of it would be, at least. I think that's excessive. I think it's not fair and it's not responsible because it was not communicated to the public. We also have learned that several of you, many of whom have contacted me, I know in my neighborhood, the entire neighborhood was overbilled. These overages came as a result of the meters not being read. Many of your bills are projected on an estimate. These estimates, for whatever reason, over the last few months, caused a number of citizens to have their bills nearly double or triple in some regard. And this happened amidst a rainy season. People were not watering as much grass and washing cars or boats because it was raining. I believe during the month of July, it rained probably, if not every day, at least 20 days in July. And so we have pressed and pressed and pressed and asked and asked and asked our city manager about the decisions that have been made in our revenue department. And it's unfortunate that the information he is receiving is either not factual, staff is not being honest with him, or he's not being honest with me. I'm not sure which is the case. All I know is we have citizens who have outstanding bills. We have individuals who are already struggling before this occurrence, and they have experienced having their utilities disconnected. And so we are hopeful that in the coming days to week or so, that these issues will be rectified. If you are a person who is experiencing an increase in your water bill, or if something just doesn't seem right, please reach out to me. I'll put in my chat my email address and the phone number where you can send that information. And if you have any questions about your bill, do not hesitate to call the revenue department. And if you think that your meter reader read wrong, call them and ask them to come back out. Or if your meter was not read at all, some of the feedback we have been receiving from individuals is that their meter clearly has not been read in over a year because of overgrowth over the meter. Some people have had to have grass cut back from their meter to actually get to it. So that's one of the ways we know that those bills have been projected using estimates. These fees that are now being assessed have to also be approved by city council, in as much as I know. And that was never done. That was never done. This was not presented to us until citizens started coming to us complaining about their water bills. Transition in our fire department and our police department. We now have a new interim police chief and a fire chief. Chief Gunther is now the interim police chief for the Savannah Police Department, and Chief Kitchens is now the interim fire chief for Savannah Fire Department. These gentlemen are both seasoned professionals who have worked within their departments in excess of 20 and 30 years, and we want to congratulate them. We are happy with their selection, and we are encouraged that they will do and continue to do a great job. I feel that Gunther is possibly the steady that we need in our police department. Right now, above any and everything, we have a group of dedicated professional officers in our police department who have suffered a great deal. The chief's position has been somewhat of a revolving door, and we know that continuity makes a difference. In my opinion, I think the lack of stability in our fire department is a contributing factor to some of the crime that we have in our community. I learned through the news that the city manager is looking to hire a firm for a national search for a police chief. And so this was not presented to us for recommendation or information sharing or suggestions even. That's what you all elected us to do, to give recommendations, suggestions to the city manager and have him make the decisions accordingly. But that's not how this is working. So we're asking you, our citizens, to weigh in and tell us what it is that you desire. Do you think we need another outsider coming in to Savannah Police Department, Fire Department? Or do you think we should stick with who we have and give our departments a little time to heal and be made whole? Whatever your thoughts are, you all are engaged in community. You have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. But what we don't want to do is, we do not want to politicize this opportunity. We know that our police department has experienced far too great hurt to politicize this. And so we do not want to do that. But what we do want is for us to get the right persons in those seats so that the right job can be done, and so that we can chip away at some of the crime. Evictions, my God, my God, my God. Evictions seem to be rising daily. We have far too many families with children who are losing their footing and becoming homeless. And this all amidst huge allocations that the city of Savannah and Chatham County has made to some of our local nonprofits. I still remain concerned that the resources we have allocated to nonprofit organizations who are supposed to be the body to deliver resources to stop evictions and to help individuals maintain their places to stay. It's just not happening at the level of which the resources we have devoted to these communities. I will tell you that via CARES Act funds, ARPA funds, and extra funds that the city of Savannah just actually found, we found like $1.2 million that wasn't allocated. Millions of dollars. In my opinion, it's enough for everybody to get a little bit of a bailout. And so why is it that we have so many families falling through the cracks? It broke my heart to talk with a young lady today who recently gave birth to a small baby. Of course, a small baby, not a small animal, who recently gave birth. And she lives in the Heritage Apartments and received an eviction notice or notice that she will be evicted. And she has 3 additional children. And no one could help her. And so when I made a phone call to, or sent an email to our city manager and our staff, and I said, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is a cookie cutter case of this woman reached out to Family Promise, United Way, in March and April of this year and was told that there were no more funds. But all of a sudden, when I sent an email last week, she received a reply that they could put her in a hotel for 30 days. Now, I'm thinking on average, a hotel for 30 days, that's about $3,000. Why couldn't they have helped her in March or April? And why are you going to have a mother who recently gave birth to a child with 3 other children, as school is starting? How is she going to move an entire apartment? Where is she going to get the resources for storage and a moving truck and help? Something is wrong. There is a disconnect somewhere. And so what we are continuously calling for, and why I go public with this stuff, because behind the scenes and under that dome, they do not listen because they don't have to right now. Good evening, everyone. So why is it that we have to have this woman lifted from the comfort of her home to be placed in a hotel for 30 days where it will cost the organization probably over $3,000, when you can simply try to work something out with the landlord, pay whatever is due, a little bit more. The lady has a job. She's just on maternity leave that's not paying any resources while she's on leave. She's been struggling since March, April, and here we are today. So we do not want our outcries. We don't want me making public appeals to be somewhat of a threat. And then they make these knee-jerk reactions to try to make it right. What we want to have happen is for the resources to be used for its intended purposes. We do not want citizens to have to go through laborious processes or make phone calls and have people never answer the phone, or to be denied for ridiculous reasons. Oh, and in addition, the woman had COVID, which is a number one qualifying factor for the resources. So, yes, we have way too many hotels in this city for young people to be sleeping in cars and on the streets with their children. And this is essentially the dynamic that we have here. We have parents of adult children and grandchildren calling to say how their children are having to move in with them, with their children, because they cannot afford rent in Savannah. Rent at some of these apartment complexes, when the lease comes due or when it's time to renew the lease, and before, residents are receiving notices indicating that their rent will be increased $200 to $300, and in some instances up to $500. There used to be a time when annually rent was increased between $50 and $75. There seems to be a coordinated effort going on around the city that is contributing to forced displacement, whereby individuals are incapable of being able to pay rent. We are moving closer to a time where people who live here, work here, pay taxes here, grew up here, born here, went to school, and graduated here in Savannah, they no longer can afford to live here. What kind of Savannah are we becoming? Forced displacement is rampant throughout our communities. And our local government has been ill-responsive. Not only have we been ill-responsive, in some regard, and to some degree, we have contributed to it. We have had several items for units on our agenda, from subdivisions to luxury apartments, where developers are requesting special use permits or permitting for their projects. And in this permitting, our council is failing on taking advantage of an opportunity to incorporate some measures by which we hold developers accountable to assuring that we maintain opportunities for individuals to be in moderate rent settings. If we do not control it, there are individuals right now who have mortgages and have had those mortgages in excess of 10, 15, 20 years. Some people in pretty nice neighborhoods. I submit to you today that your mortgage for your 4 or 5 bedroom home in excess to 3,500 to 5,000 square feet, your mortgage right now is more than the rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in a fairly decent neighborhood. That's the standard of Savannah right now. And that's the God honest truth. For parents who have adult children seeking to move out and be on their own, bad news, they won't be going anywhere anytime soon. If they're smart, they'll stay home with you. It's getting tough. It's getting really tough. And so I also want to share with you, before I go, information on, we talked about the military and T-SPLOS. T-SPLOS is another thing that our council, the transportation tax. I want you all to know that I will not be voting for transportation tax. So our council voted to have it on a referendum for our citizens to consider. My issue with the T-SPLOS, outside of just being anti-tax for citizens, until we are doing better by our budget, is simple. We need to communicate with you first. We need to hear from you. This transportation T-SPLOS, this transportation tax, there was a committee that was formed outside of the Alderwoman at large, the mayor, Nick Palumbo, Estella Shabazz. They were a part of the committee. But the individuals who really have their finger on the pulse of the people citywide were not able to weigh in. And so the projects on that list essentially come from the 4th district and the 5th district. And then you have the tie to town. But where is the priority for the 6th district, for the 1st district, for the 2nd district, the 3rd district, right? We want to make sure that the citizens of those districts also have an opportunity to weigh in on where they want sidewalks in their neighborhood, what streets need paving in the various neighborhoods. Everyone should have an opportunity. In addition, we should be able to educate our citizens on what is it they will be voting for and what are the implications. What is this going to cost them, right? And I was told that once T-SPLOS passes, then, the Duran Avenue expansion, that was on the list as well. I was told that once T-SPLOS passes, then we could give consideration to discussing more projects. Well, you know how that goes. How are you just going to approve something first and we're supposed to trust that you're going to give consideration to my project after it passes, after I vote for it? That's not how it's supposed to work. Now, listen, you all can do whatever you want to do, but I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm just bringing you the information, okay? The fairgrounds. I want to read a letter to you all that I had permission to share from our 5th district coalition leader, Dr. Pat Harris. So there has been a lot of movement as of late around the fairground project with regard to the negotiations and the partners who were a part of the fairgrounds project and who are no longer. And so if you go to the Savannah agenda, it's a news publication. Eric Curl, reporter, is doing a few stories on the fairgrounds. So I will tell y'all that this has been a project in the making for the 5th district for a long time. They've waited several years, decades, to get this project off, only to now have it finally see the light of day on our Savannah agenda, only to be halted by information and individuals who probably are doing things that they should not have been doing. And so as a result of the article on Savannah agenda, where the headline reads, Savannah Fairground negotiations continue after local partner leaves. And that local partner is former Representative Craig Gordon, who aspired to develop a film production studio to train individuals who live in the district all of the nuances related to the industry of film so that they would be equipped and ready to take advantage of opportunities with some of the film projects that come through Savannah. Because if you notice, or we have noticed, that many people who come when those productions are made here in Savannah, oftentimes people are coming in from all over the United States to work these projects. Very rarely are they heavily populated by local people, if ever. And so Dr. Harris, after reading that article, she sent a letter indicating that she was concerned, and she essentially wrote this to Dr. Estella Shabazz. She was very upset that she had not received information with regard to the contents of the article. Two articles that Eric Curl wrote. One basically acknowledges that the developer, the P3 developer, was under indictment or being investigated, in addition to having their nonprofit status pulled. And we also recognize that this individual did not qualify for the tax credit for developing houses that the citizens of the 5th District didn't want, but they conceded on a housing project. It was a barter. Okay, we'll do housing if you're going to do this recreation and create these economic drivers for us. We'll take the moderate housing project. But they jump out of the gate with the moderate housing project, only to not qualify for the tax credits. And when I questioned the city manager as to why are we starting developing the project with the first thing, with housing, when it was the first thing that the residents stated they didn't want, I was told by the city manager that the developer was starting with housing because they had to generate the revenue to complete the project. Well, that's not right. That goes against the rule. You score points. You get points for demonstrating your fiscal ability to complete the project. So how are you going to now say, I need to start the project with housing so that I can generate the revenue to complete the project? Wrong answer. So the first red flag for me was that there are individuals who are now a part of this project and leaders within this project that I was introduced to by Dr. Shabazz just before we were sworn in as elected officials. And she did this unbeknownst to me. I did not realize that these individuals would ultimately be a part of the Fairgrounds project. So I kind of feel used and taken advantage of in that regard. And when we made this known to the city manager, because I wanted to make sure that I told him, listen, I want to keep my hands clean on this one. So I met this guy. I know this woman. I think these are the same people we were introduced to in Atlanta. And now you're telling me that they're part of this Fairgrounds project and leadership positions and positions where they stand to gain financially. And so I was assured that there was nothing nefarious about that, and that's how they do business all the time, and that it was okay. It didn't sit well with me, and so I had a discussion with some of the 5th District presidents and informed them of such. And it was their position just to say, you know, Kesha, we want to get this project off the ground. We've been waiting all of this time. We really trust that what we have been presented with, Representative Gordon is homegrown from the 5th District. We trust that he will be a good steward of this project. And so we want to go forward. So against my better judgment, I align myself with the voice of the people, which I always do. I align myself and I align my vote. And we voted for the Fairground project to move forward, only to now come to this where the representatives of the 5th District are now concerned because of failure to communicate, and they believe that it was done somewhat on purpose. She goes on to state that they were promised transparency and communication. They were failed as others have failed them in the past. And the transparency or the notion thereof has been just short of a failure. Therefore, they are requesting a thorough and complete investigation into the Fairgrounds project. They will be sending a letter from the 5th District Coalition, which will address the issues, the lack of communication, questionable behaviors, and the involvement and engagement with members of P3 partners. I already told you my involvement. I'll tell you some more if you want me to. And they end by saying that they are appalled that they were not informed of some of the contents contained within the articles reported by Eric Curl. And she wants to know if, in effect, if the information is true, and she would like a response in 24 hours. So promise I would share this. And she sent this to all representatives, members of city council, including the city manager and the city clerk. So we're hopeful that they will get the answers that they deserve. And so I want to say that in the last several weeks, over the last several weeks, I have visited neighborhood associations in the 5th District, and I have informed them of information that I was knowledgeable of. These neighborhood associations were Summerside, Tatumville, and Liberty City. Those were the 3 I visited since a lot of this information had been circulating. A lot of times it's really difficult to share, to be the bearer of bad news or not so good news, but it's the truth. We did not come to decide what to share or pick between what's good and bad. We just have to give people the information. And right now, there isn't very much good going on in this community. We are blessed to be affording some semblance of harmony in our community. We are hopeful that we continue from our pandemic to COVID, monkeypox, officer-involved shootings. There is a lot going on, but in the midst of it all, members of our Savannah community are finding ways to hold it together and keep it together. Babies are still being born. People are still getting married, graduating from college, celebrating milestones, retirement, anniversaries. It does my heart good to see so many people enjoying life amidst all that we have going on. But we want to also remember those who are not living in such harmony. I continue to be concerned that the person who killed the baby in Yamacraw, a 14-year-old Desiree Gilliard, has still not been identified. We want to ask that the public weigh in and share information. If anyone knows something, to say something. This thing is going so fast, I can't. Donald Trump home in Florida just raided by Florida. Oh, wow. Yeah, and so much going on nationally as well. But we want to do what we can in this part of our city. We want to make sure that we are not sugarcoating things and just telling you what we think you want to hear. We want you to know the truth so that when you know better, we are able to do better. And with that, we want to also say congratulations to all of our local school children and young people who are enjoying their first Monday back at school. We pray that we have a successful year filled with academic success and social harmony. May these be the best years of forming and creating nostalgic moments that in years to come, our youth will look back on and say, whoa, those were some great times at our Savannah schools, both public and private. We want to encourage you all to, of course, engage not only with your local City of Savannah government, but we want you to follow Chatham County. We want you to follow your state representatives and hold all of us accountable so that we can have a better Savannah Chatham. With that, I want to say good night to you all. And if there are any questions that I can answer in my chat, we want you to go ahead and put those in there and we'll respond accordingly. And as always, you know how to reach me via text, email, or just give me a call. All of our information is on the City of Savannah website, and I will put that in the chat tonight for those of you who have issues and concerns with your water bill. And for people who don't look at your water bill every billing cycle because it comes so infrequently, sometimes we miss it. We want you to take the time and find those bills and check out what changes have been made and look at your usage last year, look at your usage this year, and determine if there are any adjustments that need to be made. And if that is the case, we want you to make sure you are making outreach. Don't forget our very important and new crisis line. It used to be the National Suicide Hotline, but now this line is a lifeline of counselors ready to listen for any issue that individuals may have related to mental health, whether it be acute depression or a person who needs somebody to talk to. We want you to be able to dial 988. 988 is a new and easy, user-friendly number that our citizens can call. That's 988. Listen, you guys have been great. It's always good connecting with you. If you need anything, we're just a phone call away, or an email or a text. Good night, Savannah, and I love you.
like that.